All right, good morning, first year class. For this week's midweek lecture for week 5, we're going to go over a couple of the concepts that we introduced last Friday at the end of week 4, last Friday, October 19th. So let's go back. We introduced a number of concepts. We went through a couple of new gestures in the gesture handbook, actually several of them. We went all the way up to gesture 16 and did some longer melodies that we sang, and we also introduced the concept of double subdivision in rhythm. So let's go ahead and get out your Berkowitz book and let's sing through a couple of the examples. Let's sing through a couple of the examples past where we stopped last Friday. Berkowitz page 9, please. Open up your Berkowitz books to page 9. Also keep handy your gestures handbook and your Kazaz. Everything you need to bring to class you should have here with you as well. Okay, if you're at Berkowitz page 9, let's begin on number 25. This is actually the last one we sang last Friday, but it won't hurt to do it again. We're in the key of E flat major, beginning on Do. Okay, we begin with the first half of the short chord, and then a 5-step up, and then a 5-step down going to other gestures there. So let's go ahead and sing this one together. I will give you one subdivided measure, and we'll begin. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Do, Mi, Sol, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Sol, Fa, Mi, Re, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Sol, Fa, Mi, Re, Mi, Fa, Mi, Re, Do. Good. All right, let's go to number 26. Do, Do, Re, Mi, Re, Do is the key of G major that we'll be in. Analyze this briefly, and you'll notice a couple of things. One, if you look between measure 2 and measure 3, Do, Sol, Do, remember the Do, Sol, Do jump. Okay, that's a great example of one right there. And if you look in the last 2 measures, Ti, Sol, La, Ti, Do, Mi, Do. So a little bit of a modification of the Sol, Do step up. It's just Sol, La, Ti, Do, Mi, Do, adding a little bit of the short chord in there as well. Okay, so we're kind of starting to piece this stuff together where we've got our main gestures and we're starting to use pieces of them in conjunction, combined to make larger gestures. Let's try this one. Do is our first note. I'll give you two subdivided measures in piano. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and Do, 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 Re, Do, 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 Sol, Do, 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 Re, Mi, Do, Re, 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 Mi, Re, 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 Do, Ti, Sol, La, Ti, Do, Mi, Do. All right, let's briefly get out your gesture handbook and let's briefly review gestures 15 and 16 where we talk about the full chord and the broken full chord. So gesture number 15, the 3rd page of your gesture handbook. Okay, and just remember we've got Do, Mi, Sol, Do. So the difference between the full chord and the short chord is we're just opening to the octave. Okay? And this is, of course, compare this to the next page, the last page of the gesture handbook. Number 16 with the broken full chord. Okay, doing the same thing, we're opening the triad to the octave, but just doing it out of sequence, okay, out of order. So let's look, with that in mind, let's look in page 9 of the Berkowitz book, back where we just were, to number 27. To number 27, the Allegro, that's there. Let's find the key of D major, which is what we're in. And what we have here in the first 2 measures, Do, Mi, Sol, Do, kind of the broken full chord. Go up a few steps and then back down to the fourth. You can actually make a convincing argument that this is just the standard root position full chord. We just changed direction and then went back. You could certainly make that argument. When you look in the second half of the example where the forte is, you'll see that is a broken chord. We begin on mi, sol, and then skip down to do before going back up to do in the octave again. So let's go ahead and count this off. Now, because I have already given you the principle of double subdivision, of dividing the beat in half and then in half again, so the beat into fourths, we will do number 27 in cut time. Okay, cut time means the same really as 2/2 time, meaning there are 2 beats in the measure, and the half note is the thing that receives the beat. So T, T. Okay. A single subdivision would be this. T, 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 T. But if we were to add eighth notes, this is now a double subdivision. Tiki, 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 tiki. And we'll get into that back in the kazez in case you've forgotten. What this will mean for number 27 in the Berkowitz book is I'm just going to count in 2 instead of in 4. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, and you go do, mi, sol, I'm going to count 1 and 2, e, and do, mi, sol. So as far as the speed and the speed at which the notes go from the beginning to the end, it'll be identical. It's just the way that you think of it that will be different. We'll continue working on this in class as well in case this is confusing. Let's give it a try. Number 27, 2 subdivided measures, and then we're in there. 1 and 2 and 1 e and 2 e and do. Excuse me, that's the wrong one. 1 and 2 and 1 e and 2 e and do, mi, sol, do, re, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, sol, do, mi, sol, do, re, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. This illustrates another point that I want to make. If you look at number 27, if you looked at all of 27 except for the last measure, you might decide that you wanted to take a very fast tempo. Do, mi, sol, do, re, do, ti, la, sol. Not so bad because it's just the broken chords and the scales going down, so it's relatively easy to do. But if you didn't notice that there was a double subdivision at the end, you're going to be in trouble because if you choose too quick a tempo, then you're going to be too fast to accurately perform the double subdivided eighth notes there at the end. So always beware when you're sight reading something for the first time, which of course is what sight reading is. Scan all the way to the end and see if there are any traps that they're leaving for you. All right, let's go to number 28. This will be the last one we do of this kind. We're in the key of B flat major, 2 flats. Do cantabile, piano. Let's go ahead and sing this one. 1, 2, 3. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re. Mi, do, mi, sol, fa, mi, sol, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Good. All right, so we've gone over those gestures. And we will wait to do stuff in the Berkowitz page 10, which are dealing with the broken chords. We'll wait to do that together because there's quite a few things that we'll want to explain before we get into that. All right, now get out your kazez rhythm reading books, please. And let's review the concept that we introduced in Friday's class, the concept of the double subdivision. In case you've forgotten it, because we did deal with that kind of at the end of the class period. Okay, the concept of double subdivision. It's just subdivision. Okay, remember, this is the magic word. Subdivision. Okay, and the standard subdivision, or what we might call the single subdivision, is if you're in 2/4 time, okay, 2 quarter notes there that comprise the measure, and their first level subdivision is you just divide each of those into half. Okay, another way you could write the same thing is with the barred 8th notes. Okay, so if you had T, T, now you have T, 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 T. Subdivision is the way you count. Subdivision is the way you count. So if I had a measure, a 2/4 measure with these note values in it, I would need to count it 1 and 2 and, not just 1, 2, because I need to count always at the smallest division of the beat. Even if there's only one note of that length in the entire piece, you still need to subdivide at that level to make sure that it's accurate. So that's the single subdivision. Double subdivision is similar. You just go one more level down. Split each of those 8ths into 16ths. I'll just make this faster. Okay, 2 different ways, or in this case 3 different ways you can think of it. So now we are dividing each beat into 4. So now our subdivided counting system of 1 and 2 and is no longer valid, or is no longer as effective, because we have smaller note values that we're dealing with. So in your mind, your internal subdivision, you need to be thinking 1E and 2E and remember the vocal cues we're using for the double subdivision is tiki, 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 tiki. So let's go ahead and do a couple of these. Open up your Kazez book to page, let's see. Let's start at page 16. And let's review one example that we did last Friday. Number 16, on page 16. Okay, make sure that you open your Kazez book all the way out, because number 16 goes across both pages. Okay, and then we'll do a couple more of the new ones. All right, number 16. Let's give this one a try. So I'm going to give you one subdivided, double subdivided measure in 4/4 time, and we'll be in 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and T, tiki, tiki, T, tiki, tiki, T, 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 tiki, tiki, T, tiki, tiki, T. Next page. T, T, tiki, tiki, T, 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 tiki, tiki, T. Tiki, 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 T. T, tiki, tiki, T, T, tiki, tiki, T. T, 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 T. T, T, tiki, tiki, T. Tiki, 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 T. All right, great. So let's look at number 17 on page 17. Here we have the double subdivision just as before, but we're splitting what we do with the beats. Up until now, we have taken the double subdivision, the 16th note, and just filled as many of those as would fit into a beat, in this case 4. But you don't have to do it that way. There are other ways that you can do it. You can subdivide only part of the beat. Okay, you can, instead of, just as in just the standard quarter notes, you don't have to subdivide them both. You can do this T, T, T. In the same way, you don't have to divide a quarter note into 4 16th notes. You can do some of it. Tiki, tiki, T, tiki. So that's what we've got here. This is the grasshopper speech cue, and number 17. Let's count through it. Two measures subdivided. 1e and a 2e and a 1e and a 2e and a tiki 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 t. T tiki t tiki t. T tiki t tiki t. Great. So let's go ahead and go through number 18 and 19. All right, number 18 is 2/4 time. Watch out, there are dynamics here. Forte, then piano with a crescendo to forte, and then piano, and then forte. All right? So make sure that you have a distinct difference between those two dynamic levels. 1e and a 2e and a 1e and a 2e and T, 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 ticky, T, 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 ticky, T, ticky, ticky, T, ticky, T, 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 ticky, T, ticky, ticky, T, 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 ticky, T, 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 ticky, ticky, T, ticky, T, ticky, ticky, T. All right, and number 19. This time we're going to try it in 3/4 time. Be careful here of the quarter notes that are tied across the bar line. Actually, what happens in number 19, if you were to close your eyes and just listen to me do this one, you would think it was in 2/4 time because of the way that they've got this tied together. But it is 3/4 time, so make sure that you're catching and you're counting across those bar lines, subdividing all the way, even when we're in the half notes and quarter notes at the beginning. All right? One subdivided measure and we'll be in. 1e and a 2e and a 3e and a T, 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 ticky, T, ticky, ticky, T, 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 ticky, ticky, T, ticky, T, ticky, ticky, T, ticky, T, 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 ticky, 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 T, off. All right, great. So that concludes what we're going to do today. We didn't really introduce any new concepts. We're just going over new concepts to make sure that they're more internalized. And we'll get into the Kazez book, into the tiki T, or the telephone speech cue next Friday's class. But until then, make sure that you're running through your homework. If you have any questions about that, especially about the dictation assignments, because last Friday was the first one that was due. If you have questions about how that works, please don't hesitate to contact me. But make sure you are contacting me at the email address that was listed on the syllabus. Because if you try to respond to the email that comes through when I send announcements out to you guys, and you try and respond that back to me, that goes nowhere apparently. I have not received any of those. So make sure that when you send me an email, you send it to my Gmail account, davikend@gmail.com. That is the more surefire way to get a hold of me than otherwise. All right? Okay, we'll see you guys on Friday. Good luck.